so sad. Be more careful. It's too sad.
That I regret voting for you for Secretary of State. I yield back.
It's not just Alberta. Saskatchewan's upset. Quebec is upset. I think that you'll hear from other provinces there also.
He did not, I repeat, did not make that commitment. Then,
Quebec's premier just officially declared that separation is now the only way forward after Mark Carney wrecked national unity. Inspired by Danielle Smith's bold rebellion,
We don't ask for special treatment or handouts.
Legault reignited the province's fight for independence and made it clear Quebec won't be suffocated by Ottawa's overreach any longer.
Let's start working together for the benefits of all Quebecers.
Canada's breaking, and he's leading the exit.
Liberal leader, currently leading in the polls, seems to be very non-committal.
May 18th, 2025. Remember the date because that's the day the Canadian Federation started coughing up blood. Quebec's Premier, François Legault, didn't just throw a political tantrum. He officially announced that Quebec is exploring a new sovereignty referendum. Yep, Quebec is done.
Carney's personality that you couldn't find in Justin Trudeau's personality.
It's about the economy. When I had about an hour discussion with him, we spoke about the...
And get this, it happened just 20 days after the federal election. You know, the one where Mark Carney's Liberals fumbled their way into a fourth term like a kid who accidentally wins Monopoly without knowing the rules. Carney clutched that win like it was a victory, but in reality, it triggered a political earthquake that's still sending aftershocks across the country.
We talk about the energy, including clean energy. He knows very well Michael Sabia. He knows about Hydro-Quebec projects. So we...
Right after Legault's bombshell, the hashtags exploded. Narucau Quebec exit, Picture Canada crumbling, and my personal favorite, I'm by Carney. Canadians weren't just surprised, they were shaken. It wasn't some basement blog talking separation. It was the Premier of Quebec making it official.
And I'm asking Quebecers to be careful talking about our children.
And he didn't mince words either. According to him, Quebec's cultural and economic identity is suffocating under federal overreach, which means Ottawa is the nosy roommate that won't stop micromanaging your fridge space, your thermostat, and now your damn soul.
What can the government do to enforce that better?
Yes, I think that most of the Quebecers respect the limit in school zones. We have police people who are making sure that it's the case.
But here's the part that actually makes me scream laugh. Legault didn't just wake up and decide this. He was inspired. Inspired by who? Danielle Smith. Yes, Alberta's very own political flamethrower. Smith basically drew the blueprint, and Legault ran with it like it was a clearance sale at Hudson's Bay.
We don't ask for special treatment or handouts. We just want to be free. Free to develop and export that incredible wealth of resources we have for the benefit of our families and future generations. Free to pursue opportunities with the ideals of entrepreneurship, hard work.
Let's rewind to May 6th, just a few days before Quebec's shock move. Danielle Smith announces that Alberta's going to hold a referendum on separation in 2026. But not just that. She pushed through a new law that lowered the threshold for petitions. In other words, she didn't just give Albertans the right to separate, she practically gift-wrapped it.
That have become synonymous with the name of our province. Freedom to choose how best to provide healthcare, education, and other needed social services to our people.
And let's talk numbers. A May 2025 Angus Reid poll showed that 65% of Smith's UCP base supports Alberta, saying peace out to Canada. That's not a fringe movement, that's a majority uprising.
And free is more than just our provincial motto. It represents who we are and how we want to live as a people.
Smith rolled out her now infamous Sovereignty Within a United Canada Act, which basically translates to, we're staying until we're not, and we'll do whatever we want in the meantime. She straight up told Ottawa to ditch emissions caps or deal with the fallout. She wasn't bluffing either. She held that act like it was a damn sword and dared Carney to flinch.
To bring the temperature down, but the question will be whether there's a will and a partner in the federal government after we see the vote on April the 28th.
Now here's where it gets hilarious. On May 7th, just one day later, Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon, leader of Quebec's Parti Québécois, gave Smith a literal standing ovation. He called her referendum plan a blueprint for Quebec's own move.
People of Quebec have voted for historic change. For the first time in nearly 5 decades, a party other than the Liberals or Parti Québécois will govern the province. Yesterday's election resulted.
And you know what? It worked. Quebec independence support shot up from under 30% to somewhere between 36% and 40%. That's not a bump, that's a surge. One province lit the match, the other brought the gasoline. Boom.
They've stacked an oil and gas production cap on top of a crippling industrial carbon tax, making new energy and agricultural projects economically impossible to pursue without massive subsidies from governments, which Ottawa has failed to provide and which our taxpayers cannot afford.
Now, let's talk about the one man who absolutely cannot keep up, Mark freaking Carney, the duct tape prime minister, the man who acts like he's here to save Canada, but can't even save his own poll numbers in 2 of the country's most powerful provinces. This guy just won another term in April, and you'd think he'd learned something by now, right? Wrong. He's still dodging pipeline questions like they're dodgeballs. Alberta media pressed him not once, but twice about energy projects, specifically oil and gas pipelines, and both times, Carney did the verbal equivalent of ghosting. Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. Bro, you're not choosing a brunch spot, you're running a country.
And how we want to live as a people. And that is why Albertans are so frustrated with the direction of our country.
Meanwhile, his popularity in Quebec and Alberta is in the toilet. Nationally, he's still clinging to 43% support, but in Quebec, in Alberta, it's a nosedive. The Bloc Québécois is rising. So is CAQ. Carney is acting like his climate jargon is going to magically stitch this country back together. But let's be real. He can't even get a straight sentence out without contradicting himself in French and English.
For the last 10 years, successive Liberal governments in Ottawa, supported by their new Democrat allies, have unleashed a tidal wave of laws, policies, and political attacks aimed directly at Alberta's free economy.
Political analysts are dragging him daily, saying different things in different provinces, trying to please everyone while standing for nothing. And his big genius move? A 9-point refusal to listen to Alberta's energy demands. Imagine being so stubborn and clueless that you push both Quebec and Alberta toward the exit door at the same time.
It's not just Alberta. Saskatchewan's upset. Quebec is upset. I think that you'll hear from other provinces there also.
And now he's doing the same dance with Quebec. No spine, no strategy, just vibes and recycled policy briefs. His position on Quebec's autonomy has been called weak, confusing, and honestly laughable. At this point, I wouldn't be shocked if Carney started a TikTok to announce his next plan to hold Canada together with inspirational quotes and compostable tape.
It is evident that Canada is not viewed as an attractive place to invest in resource development.
And hey, just a quick reminder that 86% of you watch but don't subscribe. Hit that button and support the channel. It's quick, easy, and means the world. Now back to the mess. Mark Carney is out here treating this like a game of SimCity, while Quebec and Alberta are flipping the table. Smith saw that Ottawa was ignoring them and decided to scream through a megaphone. Legault saw Smith and said, "Hold my poutine." And Carney? He's over there scribbling national unity on a whiteboard like that's going to stop 2 full-blown separatist movements with real legislative teeth.
A lot of leverage, because whether it's oil and gas, or whether it's electricity, or whether it's critical minerals, or whether it's potash, or whether it's uranium, or whether it's food, whether it's intermediate products.
Quebec is pissed. Alberta is on fire. And our Prime Minister is out here acting like a yoga instructor trying to talk 2 bears out of eating him in the woods. It's embarrassing. And don't get me started on the hashtags. They're not just trending, they're raging. People are posting memes of Legault and Smith shaking hands over a burning Canadian flag. It's funny, but it's not a joke. This is real. This is what happens when a leader thinks charisma and confusion are substitutes for leadership.
Canada has fallen to dead last in economic growth among industrialized nations. The world looks at us like we've lost our minds.
Remember Jacques Parizeau? Of course you don't. Most people barely recall what they had for breakfast. But in 1995, that guy came this close to breaking up the country. Quebec's referendum failed by just 54,288 votes. A margin so tight it makes your last Tinder match seem like a sure thing. And now, Legault is pulling that dusty playbook back off the shelf, slapping it on the table and saying, let's run it back. But this time, we're not messing around.
Those kind of sentiments, whether they're in the West or whether they're in Quebec. And the solution is to honor and respect the Constitution and honor and respect provincial jurisdiction and allow for autonomy, allow for Quebec to develop policies that make sense for Quebec and allow Alberta to develop policies that make sense for Alberta.
Because 2025, it's a different beast entirely. And Legault is not here for symbolic gestures or emotional speeches. He's not crying into a fleur-de-lis flag. He's plotting town halls, firing up constitutional committees, and practically printing the blueprints for a sovereign Quebec on Canva.
And allow for autonomy, allow for Quebec to develop policies that make sense for Quebec.
Why? Because he's fed up. Ottawa's got a chokehold on 400,000 plus temporary immigrants, and Legault wants that number cut in half. That's not a suggestion. That's a scalpel to federal policy. And he's got more grievances than a customer service inbox on Black Friday.
For that, we need the help of the federal government.
Let's start with federal interference in French language protections. You'd think protecting French in Quebec would be the one thing everyone could agree on, right? Wrong. Carney's government has been so wishy-washy, they make room temperature tea look bold. Legault sees it, and so do voters.
It's important to be clear. The three of us have some work to do. So municipal level, provincial level, and federal level, we need to make sure we have more police people.
Then there's the economy, specifically how it's getting sucker punched by Trump's 25% tariffs. That's right. Donald Trump, now back in office like a bad sequel, slaps tariffs on Canadian goods. And who's stuck eating the bill? Quebec. And what does Mark Carney do? He holds a meeting. That's it. No aggressive response, no economic retaliation. Just a polite conversation in Washington and a sad little press release that reads like it was written by a panic-stricken intern.
There may be a coalition of provinces that may finally get this country working the way it was always intended to. That's what I'll be working towards.
So now, Legault forms a constitutional exploration committee, basically a roadmap to sovereignty, and plans town halls across Quebec. This isn't grassroots organizing. This is a strategic rollout. It's polished, it's premeditated. It's practically a soft launch for independence. And of course, Danielle Smith is doing the exact same thing in Alberta. Her Alberta Next panel is already set to tour the province by summer 2025. These two aren't just coincidentally aligned, they're synchronized like a duet, and Mark Carney is the background noise no one invited.
Let's start working together for the benefits of all Quebecers.
A May Postmedia Leger poll revealed that 36% of Quebecers now favor independence. In Alberta, 30% of the general population supports separation. But here's where it gets nuts. 65% of UCP voters, Danielle Smith's base, are all in on breaking up with Canada. Do you think Quebec is right to walk away, or is this the beginning of Canada's collapse? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss the next twist.